Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here in attendance with me once again because today we're going to be going through our NXT recap from last night's NXT. This will be the 8th of April edition of NXT. So how about we go into the show, break everything down as to what happened, and let's just see what we thought of everything that took place. So here we go. We will go into our first action of the night. We'd start off with a match. We have Stephanie Vaquer, the NXT Women's Champion, join commentary for the opening contest because this would be Jordynne Grace going one-on-one with Jada Parker. Basically, Stephanie last week saying that she would be choosing her opponent for Stand and Deliver. As to who it was going to be, it was billed that this match would basically be essentially a number one contenders contest. It wasn't like actually stated as such, but the commentators made us believe that that's what it was here. So that whoever would win this match between Jordynne Grace and Jada Parker would be chosen by Steph to challenge her at NXT Stand and Deliver. I had a feeling something else was going to happen. I wasn't too sure when I was watching it, but the match itself was pretty great. These two women, showed up and showed out here to start off NXT. Thought it started off in a nice, well-paced little bit of action. And I think Jada Parker and Jordynne Grace, they're two very consistent individuals in the ring. There was a slight little hiccup at one point, and there's been a lot of that recently in WWE, so no real shade thrown to anybody here, regarding that particular incident. But literally just afterwards, we would lead to a little bit of a situation at ringside where Stephanie Vaquer would be caught up in the action. To be honest, she would get up out of a chair and sort of square up to Jada Parker. That sort of initiate a little bit back and forth between the two of them. Eventually, Steph would get caught up and involved, and Steph would fight back. I had this one written down as a no contest. As to whether it's a disqualification, I can see that being the case, but I think it was given as a no contest, if I'm correct. So no official winner in this match. The brawl that takes place afterwards is sort of like Jordynne and Jada both attacking Stephanie. It's quite interesting, but like a little bit of a mix between everyone as well. But it got to a point where they were ganging up on Steph, and Giulia's music hits. The former NXT Women's Champion is back after losing her title to Stephanie Vaquer in that title versus title match not too long ago now. And yeah, Giulia would head down to the ring. She would basically just come to the aid and just remove Jordynne and Jada from the ring. As she's sort of like just weighing up the landscape, just making sure that everything's, okay. She would then turn around to Stephanie Vaquer. They'd have a little bit of a stare down. These two having a lot of respect to each other and, have a bit of history together as well. It would be a bit of a little twist with Giulia turning, I guess, the coin up on its side, and she would attack Stephanie Vaquer. She would hit the Northern Lights bomb, and she would hold up the NXT Women's Championship to end the segment. So Giulia, whether that's a heel turn or not, I don't know. Whether it's just an initiation of a challenge for Stephanie Vaquer and her title at Stand and Deliver. Obviously, we don't know that either. But maybe a bit more about that going forward in the show. It was good to see Giulia back. She's been gone for a little while now. But it's the perfect time for her to show back up again. Stand and Deliver isn't too far away. More about that later on. Let's go into what took place next. And this was a very, very, very good match between two tag teams. One that you know very well, Fraxium, the NXT Tag Team Champions, and one team that maybe some people don't know too well, Swipe Right. These guys are from WWE Evolve. If you haven't watched WWE Evolve, then it's been a new thing recently started off on YouTube and Tubi. That's been going approximately about a month or so now, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And these guys are a staple on the show. Swipe Right. So they're normally seen like the VIP lounge. They had the first main event in WWE Evolve. They're very energetic, as you can probably gather from the matchup if you've seen it. It was a very, very, very good contest between both teams. For a team that is so inexperienced with big televised matches, Swipe Right didn't look out of place at all here. They absolutely showed up against Fraxium, delivered a really, really good matchup. Was very back and forth, high tempo, quick offense throughout the entire duration. And there were points where Fraxium was sort of like pushed a little bit to their limits that they like to go to a lot. But Fraxium, they don't really know how to have a bad match, do they? They put on a show every single time they're in the ring. They did that here today against this, upstarting team of Swipe Right. and it was a quality contest between the two teams. Fraxium coming out on top in the end, as you would expect. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't know Swipe Right, you'd know about them now, that's for sure. Into our next match of the night. This would be the first of two Women's North American Championship ladder match stand and deliver qualifying contests, and this would be Sol Ruka going one-on-one with Jasmine Nix of Fatal Influence. A little bit of a pre-thing backstage before this took place between the Fatal Influence members. Fallon and JC basically saying that they want to become the NXT North American Women's Champion, or in Fallon Henley's case, she wants to become it again. They would basically say that they're going to win their matches and go to win the championship. Jasmine Nix would just get up out of her seat and say, actually, no, that's not how it's going to go down. It's going to be me. I'm going to win it. So Fallon and JC, a little bit struck by that, a little bit confused by it. Regardless, went out to the match, and the two had a pretty decent contest against one another. There was a little bit of stuff going on the outside, but Sol Ruka was able to put that aside thanks to the help of Zarya, and that would be enough for Sol Ruka to get the victory in the end and just put away Jasmine Nix. But yeah, she goes to stand and deliver, qualifying for that women's ladder matchup. No real surprise there, but she joins her tag team partner Zarya in the contest, which should be quite interesting come stand and deliver. And then we go into what happened next, which was a tag team match. We saw the Culling going up against Hank and Tank. And Hank and Tank have been going on this journey of trying to find who they are and get advice from various tag teams and whatnot. This time, they didn't really have any sort of guidance or advice from a big tag team before this matchup. So they would go into it, and they'd have a match against the Culling, and it would be pretty much standard what you expect from a Hank and Tank contest. There's a lot of fun, a lot of high energy involved in these. But ultimately, in the end, Hank and Tank always lose. And that is the case here today as well. The Culling would get the victory in the end. They would put they would put themselves on the map after a segment earlier on with Sean Spears just sort of like trying to not calm down the group, but reassure them that things are going in the right direction. Even though he lost his NXT North American Championship, he says the goal now is to focus on everybody else, focus on you guys. Winning the North American title was great, and he'll go down as a champion in history, which is awesome. But the main goal for him is that he's bringing the other guys up and he's making them shine. And this was an opportunity for Cullen to go out and get a victory, which they did right here. So yeah, fair play to the Culling. They get the win. Quite interesting the dynamic there from Sean Spears not being disappointed about losing a title at all. But the focus is on to just bringing the other guys up. And this is a good start for the Culling for sure. So how about we get your opinions here, Nick? What about that return from Giulia and the chaos that erupted in that opening contest? Maybe you can lead us on to what went down a little bit later on as well. Then, Swipe Right. I'm not sure if you've seen them before on WWE Evolve, but if not, what did you think of these guys? And it was a great match against Fraxium, I thought. And then the qualifying match with Sol Ruka and Jasmine Nix. No surprises there. And then obviously Hank and Tank. They're still struggling to find who they are. But what did you think of all these?
Yeah, as the opening match was going down, obviously it was a pretty good contest, and once again felt like Parker was getting most of the offense in there, which was a bit of a surprise. I kind of thought Jordan Grace would take it. Felt like it was her time, and Parker had recently had a chance, and so kind of that's where my head was at, anyways. But as the match was going on, I was sitting here thinking, well, why is Vaquer at commentary? Because she didn't really do much in terms of commentating, and then we find out at the end that she was involved in the finish, which raised some questions. And first of all, Giulia being back so quickly. Yeah, I need to know more in terms of what exactly the plan was. If she was actually injured, surely, I guess she wasn't. If she's back already, right? Or very minor injury, but if it was very minor, why take the title off of her? I'm sure there are people out there that know, but I'm not one of them. So this was interesting, and obviously now we have the four women, I guess, all involved in this picture. And so are we headed for a fatal four-way? At this point, I'm not sure. But yeah, this was interesting. This was an interesting display, and the broken record that I will come off as, because the suicide dive being botched again feels like a theme. You know, you kind of touched on it. It's just not worth it. And every time, I think Corey Graves was the one that said high risk. Uh, it's just not worth it. It's not impressive to see because everyone can do it, and we've seen, I think, three three of those being missed over the last week. So yeah, just not worth it. Let's cut down on them or remove them altogether. I don't care. Um, but yeah, interesting way to start off NXT. Fraxian versus Swipe Right. I do not watch Evolve. I struggle to watch the three weekly shows sometimes. Um, but that being said, I think this is a great opportunity to show someone from that show and kind of market it and show someone, what's going on down there. And after this, I'm sitting here thinking, hey, I might try and go and watch that show. As you mentioned, a month or so worth of shows to watch. So yeah, I might go check that out now. So I think this is a good idea. We could probably do this more with NXT. Um, Help showcase and help market that brand. But of course, this was a great match. Anything anything Fraxum is involved in tends to be. And yeah, I think they did it well enough to where Swipe Right looked like a potential future tag team that could cause some issues. But at the end of the day, Fraxum has been uh, champions for quite a while, and they showed why here. Jasmine Nix and Sol Ruka. Yeah, I think the only reason I thought Jasmine Nix might win because Zarya was already in that ladder match at Stand and Deliver, so I thought maybe some interference might cause Sol Ruka the match, and but yeah, it certainly they certainly tried, but Sol Ruka does end up getting the win, and yeah, that will be interesting, a dynamic in the championship match at Stand and Deliver. However, I did note that Jasmine Nix looks pretty good. I feel like we see her the least of the three, and yeah, she had a good showing here too as well. So I noted that as well. And the latest episode of the Hank and Tank saga, more of the same, really. Yeah, again, it was a great match for what it was. I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes, maybe, if that. But for what we saw, it looked good. Eventually, they have to turn change the narrative, right? I feel like they're hovering that line where it's too much, and then at some point we can no longer take them seriously. So I think they do. If they're going to be involved at Stand and Deliver, I suppose that would be a good time. Or next week is as good as time as any, I suppose, just to get them back in the win category to show that they are capable of getting a win sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so just on the back of the Hank and Tank situation there, before we do quickly just move on to what came up next in the show, I don't know if it was immediately afterwards. I didn't actually properly remember when this took place in the night, but it would be after their match, sometime afterwards. I think it was pretty shortly afterwards. They'd be backstage and they'd just sort of be consoling themselves, and they wouldn't be too happy about their performances over the past number of, I want to say weeks, but it's probably 2 months now, to be fair. But the Street Profits would turn up on NXT, the WWE Tag Team Champions for Friday Night SmackDown, and they would basically start reassuring Hank and Tank that they don't need to take advice from all of these other tag teams. The reason they've been losing is because they've been trying to be somebody that they're not. And Dorks and Tez made some really good points about not trying to be like anybody else, just trying to be themselves and just basically just taking the moment for what they can do with it. So don't really take too much advice from anybody else and just go with what you're good at and just basically do what you do. It seemed to resonate with Hank and Tank, and Street Profits started to up the ante. They basically announced there was going to be a tag team gauntlet match next week where the winners of that would take on Fraxium at Stand and Deliver. So Hank and Tank could be involved in that. now that they've just been told this really big advice by the Street Profits, they were getting like pretty energetic backstage. They were getting loud. There were people in the back looking on as Dorks and Tez were basically just getting louder and louder, getting more pumped for these guys. And yeah, it seems that things are starting to maybe possibly look up for these guys going into a big opportunity next week. But it's been a very big saga, as you said. Maybe we're about to see the end of it, the end result perhaps next week. Other stuff that happened during the night, we would have a segment with Ricky Saints in the ring, and he would basically be going on to say about his win of the NXT North American Championship last week against Shawn Spears, which we covered earlier on. And it wouldn't take too long for Ricky to be interrupted. He'd basically be saying how he's a man of his word by winning the title after calling a shot, but it would be Lexus King that will come on down, maybe possibly a little bit surprisingly, interrupting him. And that wouldn't be all of the guests that would show up. We then have Eddie Thorpe come down a couple of moments later, and then we would even have Wesley turn up as well shortly after that. So these four guys in the ring at the moment, sort of like building maybe a picture for the NXT North American Championship, as they're just basically just, I don't know, just like having a conversation with each other. Ricky Saints gets attacked from behind by Ethan Page, just from the side, whatever. He hits a twisted grin on Ricky Saints and would lay him out in the middle of the ring. A brawl would then break out moments before Wesley would go one-on-one with Yoshiki Inamura. So a little bit of a a little bit of a complex situation there revolving the NXT North American title. As to what the clear picture is going into Stand and Deliver for that championship. Not too sure right now. There are multiple possibilities here. Obviously, you've got 4 men, 5 men really around the title picture. Of that includes Ricky himself as well. So, how about we talk about one of those guys, Wesley. He would have that match with Yoshiki Inamura straight afterwards. He would defeat Yoshiki as well after a lot of hecticness on the outside of the ring. That would cause things to go in Wesley's favor. He'd take advantage. He hit the cardiac kick, and that would be enough to pin Yoshiki Inamura to the mat. But yeah, it was a fun contest between the two guys. A little bit of going on the outside, which is what you'd expect when there are people around. But yeah, pretty fun. I enjoyed the matchup, to be honest with you. I think Wesley winning is probably the correct decision. I would imagine that sort of like elevates him to a solid situation where he'll be in the conversation for that North American Championship. And then Yoshiki Inamura, I would imagine, sticking around with Josh Briggs, possibly in that tag team gauntlet match next week on NXT, where the winners of that one will go on to Stand and Deliver against Fraxium. So yeah, I think this made sense logically, just piecing it together there, going into the big event coming up very, very soon. After that, we would also Stand and Deliver stuff. There's a lot of Stand and Deliver conversations here. We would then have a one-on-one match between Ren Sinclair and Izzy Dame. So this was an opportunity to go on to Stand and Deliver to compete in that Women's North American Championship ladder match that Sol Ruka qualified for earlier in the night. Izzy Dame would come out victorious in this matchup. Again, fighting for the culling after their little bit of a vignette earlier on in the night about making these guys shine. And that's exactly what Izzy Dame did here in this matchup. She defeated Ren Sinclair, a woman who was actually in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge last year. So she's no slouch in her own right. But Izzy Dame getting her biggest opportunity, probably, in a very long time. Maybe even the biggest that she's had on NXT. So, yeah, she'll be going to Stand and Deliver, competing in that championship match. And can she come up with a title? Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But this is a decent enough match in the end between these two women. And I think ultimately probably the right decision here was made. And then into our main event, we would have just a bit of a confusing situation between 3 men who are competing for the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver. Obafemi teaming with Javon Evans and Trick Williams. They would take on Darkstate. This would be the debut for these guys in ring competition as a group. So Darkstate looking to start off strongly here. Just the 3 of them. Obviously, it was a 3-on-3 tag match, so one of them was on the outside. But it was a great opportunity for these guys to start off with a big victory here, and that's exactly what they did. It wouldn't come without a little bit of controversy or a little bit of happen circumstance, because we would have the match going pretty standardly, back and forth for a while. Moments of ill discipline from the 3 involved in that NXT North American NXT Championship matchup. we would have Obafemi. I think he launched one of the Darkstate members into Trick Williams on the apron. Javon Evans would tag in like shortly afterwards, but that would spark off a bit of a brawl between Trick and Oba. Javon not able to keep the guys, focus on the matchup. Oba and Trick would go to the outside, would go up the ramp and start fighting between themselves, leaving John Evans to be mauled by Darkstate. So that he would actually put up a little bit of fight to begin with. He'd hit a frog splash from the top, and he'd get a near fall. But as he was looking for the cutter off the ropes, the OG cutter, he wasn't able to get it. He was tripped up on the ropes, and that ultimately led to the finish. Darkstate picking up the victory here. What was pretty chaotic for for the NXT Championship picture, guys. So yeah, Darkstate picking up with the win here. I don't really see this as a surprise. That was expected for sure. These three were never going to really sort of like work together as a unit. So ultimately, that cost them in the end. And Javon Evans paid them biggest price for it. Getting being on the receiving end of the attack from Darkstate at the end. It wouldn't quite end there, because after the match had finished and Darkstate was celebrating and reveling in their achievement, we would see Channing Stacks Lorenzo on the Tron, and he would basically challenge Darkstate to show up in the parking lot on NXT next week. Basically just talking as the underboss here, Toja Angelo. Bit of a weird situation with him and Channing recently as to who's calling these shots. But this one was definitely from the underboss in the situation. And we all know what happened to the NXT parking lots. Lots of brawls, lots of animosity. So that could be quite interesting to see what exactly is going to take place. It could be a big time brawl. We'll have to wait and see. But you don't really get too many people challenge others to go into the parking lot. But this is definitely a setup thing, which is quite cool. I quite like it, actually. Nick, what did you make of these particular segments, buddy? So talking about Ricky Saints, obviously, the situation around that championship, there's a lot of guys involved here by the looks of it. Wesley's match then against Yoshiki Inamura, as well as Izzy Dame qualifying for Stand and Deliver, and then Darkstate's debut. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, so what started as it appears to be the North American men's title picture. I felt like this was the theme for the rest of the night, and I'll touch on it a bit again in a bit. But felt like NXT maybe ran out of time a little bit. We've kind of seen this with the huge build to Mania, and huge in terms of length and being longer than normal. Well, it felt like maybe we overestimated how much time we had left, because this segment in particular, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, Lexis King, and Eddie Thorpe all showing up was chaotic, and I suppose, as you mentioned, probably setting the tone for what we'll see soon. But then just having the actual match of Wesley and Inamura, obviously it was a great match. Both of these, Wesley has obviously proven himself time and time again. And he's a great individual for showing off a powerhouse like Inamura. And I think Inamura has tons of potential and is actually one of the most exciting prospects in my eyes, in terms of what he could potentially become. I think he's bigger than a tag team. Obviously, that's going to be their first step, but I think eventually he has unlimited potential. So, but yeah, this was a good match. How was it? Maybe the match of the night. Yeah, it was very very technical and fun to watch. Moving on, Rin Sinclair and Izzy Dame. I thought for sure Rin Sinclair was going to win this one. Yeah, another shocking outcome. And the crowd was very much behind Rin Sinclair as well. And yeah, Izzy Dane gets the win, and I think she deserves a shot as well. So it's nice to see her get a chance at Stand and Deliver. I don't think she stands a chance at winning, but we shall see. We shall see where they go. And then the main event. Yeah, this was messy too. First of all, putting these three guys as a team, talking about Femi, Oba, and Javon, was never going to work. And then them being baby faces in this situation is just strange as well. But I feel like the overall, obviously, the match was well enough with as many guys in the ring. It's hard to do much with, but in terms of storytelling and uh, yeah, that Dark State gets the win, which again I think was probably everyone's predicted outcome. Um, it would have been weird to build them up for this long and then not get a win. And yeah, I think the brawl next week with the family. I assume that will be extended, but yeah, I don't know. For as long as they built them up, Dark State, and then haven't seen anything that makes them super noteworthy. Maybe I'm being too picky too early. Um, but yeah, I it had my attention. I just feel like and I've said this before. I just feel like I need to see a little more. So we'll give them time and see what they can do. Um, but yeah, this is my main takeaway. It's kind of what I hit on earlier was it felt like they tried to put a lot into this NXT. Um, there are 7 matches in total, and some of them weren't super noteworthy, and obviously some of them weren't long. Um, but in terms of, and I keep hitting on this with Raw and SmackDown too, we're building to this, WrestleMania type event in Stand and Deliver. And so in terms of that, it felt like we did a good job of building up. Almost every single storyline was touched to some extent or another. And yeah, there's just a lot of storytelling and a lot of action in the short show that these guys have. So it was kind of a double edged sword there. It was good and the bad were because of that. It felt like some things didn't get as much time as it should have, and some things were kind of forced in there. So yeah, overall, I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. Again, not a bad episode by any means. Just felt like maybe we were rushing some things and could have extended that out through a few weeks maybe beforehand. But yeah, overall, a pretty enjoyable episode.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really agree with you anymore, to be honest. I gave it a 7.5 as well, so on the same wavelength there. I think you were basically just glossed over like my exact reasoning as well. Yeah, it was a good enough episode for what it did. I think we've taken some real steps towards Stand and Deliver, which sounds, expected at the end of the day, but it's all about the progress, and we're getting like a few different things progressing nicely at the same time, which is good. To have Giulia back, and we've got a big match, planned now for Stand and Deliver for the Women's Championship. That's fantastic. NXT North American title picture maybe perhaps heating up a little bit. Stand and Deliver the tag team contest, the gauntlet matchup. That's looking pretty great as well. The Women's North American title ladder match. Yeah, things are all looking really, really good. So there's a lot of progress being made each and every single week. And yeah, things happening outside of those title pictures too, which is always great as well to keep the interest sort of across the entire board. But yeah, 7.5, good episode. Yes, definitely some highs, especially the start and the end for me personally. I think that's how a show should be, really, to get you gripped at the very beginning, to get you gripped at the end. Yeah, I think it was that was a solid way to do things, and glad they went down that route. But thank you to everybody here for tuning on into this one. That has been our NXT recap for this NXT last night. If you guys enjoy this one, then please hit the like on the video. Please subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with future releases coming up very, very soon. We're going to be doing a couple of new things coming up this week as we're celebrating, Stand and Deliver and WrestleMania sort of season. So we're getting a little bit innovative. And we're starting to go outside the box a little bit. So yeah, keep an eye out for those because it's going to be pretty great. But yeah, whatever you thought about this one as well, please let us know your comments as well. Please leave some notes for us down below, just to let us know what you're thinking of them. But yeah, next time, guys, we'll be back with something a little bit different, something a little bit new. But we'll see you all again then. Thank you so much for tuning on into The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers, everyone, and see you next time.